Okay, hang on. Let me get a shot of Jack.
Oh, all right.
Well, I'm ready when you guys are.
Come get on that. Come get on that.
Here we go. And we're back for another edition of Jofo in the Ring. And today, Jeremy, we got a huge guest.
Yes, we do. We have an outstanding guest. He is a good father. He is a father of good. He is a father of God. I guess you people know who I'm talking about. I am talking about the one, the only, the Godfather, aka Sir Charles Wright. And what I think is so outstandingly great is that not only do we have him on here today, but I'm rejoined by you. And you know, I was gonna say you're looking a little bit slimmer, but then I got a full 3D kind of look at you, and you actually look like you got fatter. So whatever kudos I was gonna give you, I think I got to take that, put it in my back pocket, and save it for when you finally get your act together.
Well, let me tell you why. I rolled down to 102 Saint Jean Baptiste, local 52 this weekend.
That was smooth.
Over to Balboa Bakery, and he hooked me up big time.
You know, I got to say, the cannoli boss, he's really on his game. And I really mean this because I was looking at some of the products they got there, and those Kit Kat donuts those Simpson donuts,
those are fantastic.
Look delicious. I think I'd be actually willing to do something you do on a daily basis, and that's break my own diet to be able to give those a shot.
I mean, I don't break my diet because I don't have one. So, but yeah, head on down to where I just said, 102 Saint Jean Baptiste, local 52, Balboa Bakery. Go see the cannoli boss. Tell him Jofo in the Ring sent you. You will not be disappointed, especially if you want to look like me.
And cannoli boss, get me those donuts. I'm anxious to try.
And on another note, I just want to give a special shout out to a friend of mine who had these fantastic ashtrays made. We have the Jofo podcast and the Jofo in the Ring podcast ashtray. So shout out to Creative Vicky. You can follow her on Instagram at Creative Vicky as well. She does rolling trays, ashtrays, all kinds of stuff, all by hand. Fantastic quality. You won't be disappointed there either.
And if you don't want to be the butt end of a joke, see what I did there? Double on town.
Oh,
give her a call and pick up a couple of these.
Now, before you go into this episode, roll up a fatty because we got Pimp Daddy.
I've been, my wife, man, got on my ass. I was working in the yard for like the last 3 hours like a fucking slave. Because I don't have a gardener because I fired him because he did a shitty job. So now I'm doing a shitty job. So anyway.
so you're back working with hoes.
That was good. That was good.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm ready when you guys are.
Okay.
All right. Just so you know, so like this name of the show is Jofo in the Ring. Jofo just stands for just our fucking opinion. So don't worry about censoring yourself or anything like that.
If you think this is one hell of an episode that you're watching, why not enjoy it like the Godfather enjoys it while getting higher, which you can do with Bongia.
Am I allowed to smoke?
You can smoke. You can do whatever the hell you want. If you want to drink more Jack on the camera, go for it.
I don't care about Jack, but
I
only needed one shot of that. But I need to smoke a little bit or take a dab here to do something.
Is that a Papa Shango bomb?
Yeah, isn't that cool?
That is amazing. That is sick.
Somebody, Jerome Baker, blew that.
That's crazy. That's nice.
For me.
So what's in the box, Kyle?
What's in the box? We got pipes, papers, bongs, little ceramic bongs, little big bongs. What do you want? You want a bong? We'll get you a bong. You want papers? They got papers. You want pipe? Guess what? They got fucking pipes too. So if you want to keep being like the Godfather, head over to getbongia.com, #go higher, and on your way out, use the promo code JOFOMOFO10. You'll save yourself some cash. All right.
Good.
Want to get
I mean, we can get this started. My name is Jeremy, aka Jeremy Prophet, a fellow in-ring performer, much like yourself. And
Okay.
this is Kyle. He doesn't know the first thing about taking a bump, but we love him just the same. He hasn't paid even one due yet, but eventually we might get him in the ring and slap him around at some point. But he's a comedian by trade.
Good.
I did get a chop from our friend over here, though.
I went easy
Now,
on him.
are you guys in Canada?
Montreal.
Montreal.
Montreal, man. Ooh, you guys used to have the best strip clubs back in the day.
Yeah, they kind of went downhill now.
Yeah, they're not what they used to be. I think you guys got us beat by a landslide down in Vegas.
Everything's mostly 25% down here, man. Now, I don't know. I'm out of that business now. So, but yeah, Montreal used to be the happening spot, and then it was good because they spoke French. They didn't even speak English, so that was even fucking better.
Yeah, French women are the best.
Yeah.
Oh,
So speaking of Montreal, actually, I have a bone to pick with you because the last time I saw you in Montreal, or actually, sorry, the very first time I saw you in Montreal, you were dressed as Papa Shango, and you made me hide under my mother's seat at the Montreal Forum. You looked at me. I don't know. You tell you were looking directly at me, but it looked like we locked eyes, and you scared the hell out of me. I think I was like, I don't know, fucking 6 or 7 or something.
yeah.
And she's like, "Oh,
So,
no." Yeah, freaked
so
out.
you're in your early what? You're in your early 30s now?
34 now. Yeah.
Yeah. That's usually people around 34 to 40, or they were kids. They're like, dude, I scared a lot of people. I was at your time. I was the boogeyman, the real boogeyman.
Yep.
Dude, I was more afraid of you than the Undertaker back in the day.
Because I was messing with kids. I was telling kids, at night you'll dream of Papa Shango and you'll dream of death. I was doing all that type of stuff.
And despite the fact that Kyle over here, he doesn't look a day under 50, we are actually fairly close in age. I am a little younger than him, but in more or less the same ballpark. I first saw you live, obviously, when you were the Godfather. Saw you on a couple cards here in Montreal, a few different fun matches. And hopefully we'll be able to cover all of that here in the time that we have, because you've had an outstanding career. And hopefully we can enlighten our audience to a lot more of that. So maybe we could start by asking how you got into the wrestling business. How'd that come about?
Believe it or not, I was not a wrestling fan at all. I was a roller derby fan. And in the Bay Area back in the 70s, roller derby was much bigger than wrestling. And I got into, but at Speed Forward, I'm working in a topless club in Vegas. I'm a bouncer, bartender, manager. Back then you were everything, right? And they were filming a movie called Over the Top. It was an arm wrestling movie with Sylvester Stallone. Scott Norton was in that. A lot of wrestlers were in that movie as extras. They're like, dude, you should wrestle. And I'm like, man, I don't want to do that phony ass wrestling. I was a biker at the time, like a hardcore biker. And they're like, well, have you heard of Bam Bam Bigelow? And I'm like, yeah, I've heard of Bam Bam Bigelow. Do with the tattoos, because I was all tatted up back then. And so they said, well, he made $1 million last year. And I went, he made how much? And so literally, this is, I don't hold me to this, but within 3 years from that call, I was in the WWF. Maybe 3.5 years from me calling somebody, the Monster Factory. I called a guy named Larry Sharp, and that was in Paulsboro, New Jersey. I was in wrestling school for maybe 3 months. Jerry Lawler seen me. My very first match ever, not a practice, not a warm-up. My very first match ever was against Jerry the King Lawler in Memphis, Tennessee on a Monday night, which is big. And I beat him in the middle, 1, 2, 3.
Wow.
My very first match ever.
So it seems right from the start, you were destined for big things, that they had that kind of confidence in you to be in there with Jerry Lawler and to get the win. So man,
I think I was so different. There was no black guys with tattoos that looked like me, and I looked like a monster. And so, I think that, but yeah, I think I was so different that they're like, let's get this guy out there right away.
And for those of you who are watching, who may not realize how big he is or know who he is, first of all, why are you watching our show if you don't know who the Godfather is? There's got to be something wrong with you. But
Pause. YouTube. Come back.
Yeah,
we'll
seriously. Maybe you could let the people know you're how tall, or at that time, you're how tall and how big, let's say.
Well, I'm still the same. I'm about 6'5.5", and I wrestled at about 300, 325. Right now, I'm probably 300, but yeah, I stay about that.
And you
But
know,
yeah, I think at my biggest, I wrestled as Kama. I think I was 340, 330.
yeah, that's an imposing size.
The supreme fighting machine.
Yeah, I mean, hey, you don't see people looking like that walking down the street, let alone, you know, tatted up and looking like
Hey,
$1 billion like this man.
Wrestlers today now are smaller. They don't have the big back then, man, everybody was big. You know, you still had your smaller guys, your Shawn Michaels and those guys, Bret Hart. But I mean, most of the dudes were monsters, man, back then. Now it seems they're more acrobatic and a little smaller and a lot more acrobatic.
But I think it goes without saying that someone with your attributes in any era, they would have a place in this business. And
oh yeah.
I mean,
well,
I
was a hell of an athlete, man. I played football, basketball. Dude, I was a hell of an athlete. I couldn't get out there now, but back in my day, I could go do all the stuff they're doing.
And the business is definitely better off for having been graced by your presence throughout all those years. Most people obviously will know you from your work in the WWE or the WWF at the time. From doing my research, I'd seen that The Undertaker was one of the people instrumental in bringing you to the WWF. Is that in fact true?
Yes. Yes. I mean, we were a tag team back in like 80, right after my little run with Jerry Lawler. They brought him in and we were a tag team for a while and we became really good friends and still are today. But he went to Japan. When he came back to Japan, I went to Japan. When I came back from Japan, he went to WCW. I went to Germany and worked for Otto Vons, who was, listen, when I went to Germany, that's where I learned Owen Hart, Chris Benoit, Fit Finley, Dave Taylor, Scott Hall. Those were the people there when I was there teaching. And so I was there for 7 months. When I came back from Germany, Taker was in WWE or F or whatever it was called, F at the time. And so he's like, hey, let's get you a tryout. So they gave me a tryout. I tried out as Sir Charles because we were in Phoenix and that's where Sir Charles Barkley was playing. So they wanted to put some heat on me. I had a match. Vince hired me. He told me, we're going to put you on payroll, go home, just keep working out. And he goes, you got a body of a monster. He says, but you got a baby face. He goes, we got to do something with your face. And they came up with Papa Shango. They covered my face.
And now going into the Papa Shango character, were you familiar with like voodoo and maybe the way things are in Haiti or in Louisiana?
I was like a hardcore outlaw biker. You know, I was so far from being a voodoo man, but you know, I did the best I could. I tried to learn as much as I could. The things that I was saying, the spells that I were doing, the symbols that I were wearing, it was all legit. I mean, I wasn't really a voodoo practitioner, but I was saying real stuff. If I was, you would have been in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you were a regular papalapis in there, if I could use a voodoo term, or a loa.
Papalapis. I like that.
Yeah, it's got a good ring to it. Now we hear all these stories about when you meet Vince McMahon for the first time and he likes to sit down with you, find out what you're all about, your background, and then maybe that starts to get the wheels turning. What was your first meeting with Vince like?
To be honest, I don't remember, man. It was, I think the first time I talked to him a bunch of times. The first time I met him, they flew me to Connecticut to try out my costume and to get fitted for the Papa Shango stuff. And we were in the office, me, him, and Howard Finkel. And Howard Finkel was, God rest his soul, he was one of the original employees there. But Howard was in the meeting and we just talked. And only thing I remember him saying is, we're going to do this, and we're going to do that, and we're going to get the wheels, the WWF wheels behind you and see what happens. You know, there was no promises. There was no main events. He just says, we're going to give this shot, get behind it, and let's see what happens.
Did you ever think that with the character being kind of supernatural, that maybe the idea they had in mind was to have you work with the Undertaker and that was maybe the end game of Papa Shango?
No idea, man. I don't think they thought that far ahead. I think they just wanted to see what was going to happen and go from there. What happened to Papa Shango was Sid Vicious quit. And when Sid Vicious quit, he was supposed to do a job for the Warrior and he refused to do it and he quit. And so all of a sudden when he quit, this is how I heard the conversation went. Who's got any heat on him? And they said, only person who's got any heat on him right now is Shango. So Shango got thrown in there way before he should have been thrown in there. And you know, it is what it is. But I tell you what, man, that company's always been. I'm still under contract with them. I've been under contract since 2003. They really hooked me up. They did nothing but good for me. They let me get away, believe me, because I don't know the rights to The Godfather. They let me get away with a lot of stuff.
Oh, that sounds great. And in thinking about it, I mean, you and The Undertaker, I love the story of your friendship. I love that it spans even before getting to the WWF. You wrestled him on many occasions as Kama, as the Godfather. I love hearing all those stories about you guys, even when you had fought over the hat, the famous one that was told on WWE. It gets me wondering, because The Undertaker did that interview with Joe Rogan recently, and he talked about it being a different era, where, you know, the wrestlers then aren't like the wrestlers today. They were more, you know, rough and crusty and the kind of guys that you
We're more real.
Guys had knives in their bags.
Yeah, guys you wouldn't want to mess with. And I'm keeping it PG for our audience. But
don't do that.
I mean, how do you feel about, like, you know, some of the reactions to that some of the current generation maybe doesn't feel like you know, wrestling should be like that, and maybe the differences between the two?
You know, bro, times change, people change, attitudes change, the way people think changes. You got to change with the time. That was a different time. Now that's more acrobatic. It's more smaller guys that can move, which is cool, man. You got to, you know, things progress in a way that, you know, you have no control over. I ain't mad at it. When I came in as Papa Shango, they hated on me. I was going to ruin wrestling. Me putting spells on people. So, you know, just times change, attitudes change. They're not AEW, Vince, all these organizations, they're giving people what they want. So if they wanted the big monsters, you'd still see the big monsters, but that's what they want, the leg slapping and all that stuff now. And then where they do like 100, I don't know how they do all these spots, man. There's one spot after the other one, because that means you got to memorize stuff. And back then, man, we just went out there and did it. There wasn't a whole lot of memorizing and going over matches back then. It was just, you knew the guy, he knew you. You went out there and you did your thing.
Now, you see, me as a performer, I always believe that first and foremost, regardless of the acrobatics, and I'm a pretty acrobatic guy in there. I do, you know, the moonsaults and the 450s and all that. But I believe that a wrestler needs to be tough and aggressive, and that no fan should ever look at a performer and say, yeah, I could probably take that guy. And it sounds like in your day, you know, no one ever thought that. Like, you know, I don't feel like a fan would say, hey, that guy, Papa Shango, the Godfather. Yeah, you know, if I saw him in a dark alley, I'd have no problem whipping his ass. You know, I don't think anyone in their right mind.
You'd be surprised, because back in the day, there was no internet. There's no social media. There's no ESPN. There's no cell phones. There's no laptops. So what happened in your town in Montreal, which I love Montreal, stayed in Montreal. So you'd get challenged a lot by dudes that thought they were tough or drunk, man.
Oh, yeah.
And some of these stories are coming out, but we used to fight a lot back in the day. And that's what I like about Taker now. He's opening up because, dude, I mean, almost any story, crazy story that involves him involves me.
So just speaking of Taker, one of the videos that's like all over YouTube is the one where you ask him if he likes hoes. Just trying to get him to break, which fucking kills me every single time I see it. Just the way you like hoes. Just, I die every time. Was there ever a chance you got him to break character? Like,
I used to mess with him so much. That was my goals. And he'd be like, knock it off, knock it off, knock it off. Like, knock it off, man. And I can't say what I do, but I would do so many things to try to get him to laugh. I've wrestled him as Papa Shango, Kama Mustafa, the Nation of Domination, Godfather. God, I've wrestled him just about as more than anybody as different characters. I've been in so many caskets, man. So many caskets, it's not funny. When I die, don't put me in no casket. I've been in so many damn caskets.
You melted his urn down and made a chain.
I used to, on house shows, it would be easier to get him than on camera. But I would hit him with stuff that happened the night before or something.
I mean, my favorite thing about that is that was Ministry Taker. So, I mean, he was at the height of his seriousness at that point. And the first thing I feel you say to him is, you know, we could do this like we usually do, but you know, I could whip your ass any day of the week. And it's like, man, he's talking to the Undertaker like that. Now, knowing your relationship, I'm like, okay, that's in hindsight, that's gold.
I posted that on my on one of my stories today. I just laughed because that's not scripted. None of that's scripted. Back then, they would just say, okay, because I don't even think it was a match. I think something where he attacks me and somebody feeds, and I don't even think there was a match. And so nobody asked me what I was going to say. Nobody asked me nothing. So I went out there and said, hey, I know you for a long time. And I know you like hoes, man. And he said, I just.
Now, when you came out and you would offer wrestlers hoes instead of wrestling, did you come up with that, or did
My
somebody?
wife did.
That it was your wife? She came up with a lot of the Godfather stuff, right?
My wife came up with everything of the Godfather except what I was saying in wrestling. The costumes, anything I wore. We had a jeweler making us jewelry, making us fur coats. We had a making the vest. I would never wear the same vest. Most of my vests on the back were marijuana sayings. And I would never wear the same vest twice on TV. I'd wear them in house shows, but not on TV. And so I had a lot of them, man, but that was all her idea. I wanted to be a mean pimp. And then I didn't want to wear the feather, and I didn't want to wear the colors, and I didn't want to do any of that. And it all worked out pretty well. But all of that was her idea. I just did the entertaining part.
Now, did you ever get in any trouble? I saw in an interview that you were going to mention her, give her a shout out in your Hall of Fame speech, but you forgot. Oh. Did you catch heat for that?
Hey, let me make sure she's not listening, dude. That's dude. I've been smoking a lot. Here's the problem. I don't script. I don't do script well. You're better off just giving me a mic and let me go, and it'll be better. And so the whole time they're like, "What are you gonna say?" And they're like, "Well, you write it down." And I'm like, "I ain't writing down nothing." So I kind of tell them what I'm gonna do, and I kind of have an order what I'm gonna do. So I go out there, and I've been medicating all day, so I was feeling pretty good. And so I get out there, my grandson was there, and it was his birthday. And right after his birthday, I was going to say something about my wife. But I was having so much fun with that I went on to the next thing. And then as soon as I got done, I'm like, oh, hell, did I mention my wife, who was everything at The Godfather? And from even to this day, she can't hear me now, but dude, that draws a lot of heat.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of heat.
We'll edit that out then.
I can imagine. Now, just going to go back a little bit in the timeline here. One thing that people talk about with Papa Shango was the infamous run-in at WrestleMania. And there's a lot of different versions as to what happened in that story. What did take place exactly?
Man, I'd like to hear that. I'd almost like to hear the other versions. I'd never heard anything about this until years later when I'm out of wrestling and I'm doing autograph signings and people are bringing this up to me. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? I have no idea what you're talking about. When I was there, I was so green. Well, not that I was so green. They were worried. So they're like, I knew what I had to do when I got to the ring. Okay. And so I'm sitting behind the curtain. They said, do not go until we give you the cue. And so I'm like a track star, just wait behind the curtain. And I'm like, it was Gorilla Monsoon. I'm waiting for Gorilla to give me the cue. And all of a sudden Gorilla goes, oh, go, 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 go. Well, he gave me the cue late. And so when I ran, so that's what happened. I don't know what the other stories are. I got a late cue. And now if that would have happened later in my career, I wouldn't have needed a cue. I would have been watching it myself and knew when it went. But I wasn't watching. I was waiting for him to tell me to go because I didn't want to mess it up. And why I never heard about it, because probably when Vince went and said, what the hell happened? Gorilla says, I gave him the cue late. And so that's why I never even heard about it.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, I think that clears the air. And, it led to the debut of Usain Shango having to run down to the ring and make the most of a situation. So, it is what it is.
Pimpin' ain't easy, baby. Pimpin' ain't easy.
And we got that great feud with the Warrior as a result of it.
Yeah, so. Which that, it draws a lot of criticism, but I think it's great television. And I personally think Papa Shango was an outstanding gimmick. No slight on any of the others, but Papa Shango, I think, is a timeless character. And I think if you look at today's television, you see someone like The Undertaker or, even like The Fiend, like Bray Wyatt. This is kind of the direction the WWE seems to be going in this more supernatural sci-fi kind of way. And a lot of stuff that maybe got criticized back then, is the same kind of thing they're doing now and people are praising. So I think maybe Papa Shango was just a victim of its time and maybe just, a lot of hearsay from a lot of people who wanted to complain. But as for me as a viewer, I love that. I enjoyed every minute of it. So was it really the idea, the possession of the Ultimate Warrior that was the nail in the coffin for Papa Shango, or what finally decided the end?
Me.
Yeah.
I was well, I mean, you went from Warrior to Bret Hart to this one. You just went down the line. But what happened is I was a real mean person back then. I was a biker, and I was going through a real nasty divorce with this stripper, and it was time for me to go. And I was getting in fights every night. Taker was like babysitting me every night. And he told me basically, him and this, like, dude, you need to go home. So they just played it out. They didn't beat me too bad. They did what they had to do. They could have beat me every night, and they kind of fizzled me out. But the thing that people must understand about me is wrestling was never my number one job. Wrestling was the strip clubs. The strip club business was always my business. I had a stake in the business. The whole time I was in wrestling, I was making money in the business. But that's where I made most of my money, even though I made good money in the WWE too. But so wrestling for me was to have fun. And when I got there was a bunch of crazy dudes like me that liked to fight, that liked to drink, that liked to go to strip clubs. And that's what it was back then, where the whole card after wrestling would go to a strip club. They wouldn't go to this, but there was no Nintendo. There was none of that. So the whole card would go. You might not hang out together, but you'd be there. And so it was like being around a bunch of crazy dudes, man, that were just as crazy as me. And it was like, I can't even tell you what happened. It's just so, I wish I could tell you what happened the first night I was there. But what happened after I was there, what happened with all these top guys, and I went in right with the top guys because I was Undertaker's boy. I was his best friend. And so, bam, I went right into riding on the planes and all that type of stuff. And I was a cool dude. So it was a different time. If I wasn't having fun, if you see me leave, it's because I wasn't having fun. And then they would call me and say, you want to come back? And I'd be like, no. And they'd be like, well, we'll let you ride a Harley. I'm like, oh, you let me ride a Harley? Okay, I'll come back. It was like that. So you'd see me come and go because I tell Vince, if I ain't having fun, Vince, I'm out of here. I'm going through tape. Now I'm going through tables every night. I'm getting hit with chairs every night. I can make more money at home and not go through. I mean, that's how it was with me. And then we got onto The Godfather, and then it was a whole different deal. But, wrestling was always fun for me. It was fun. When it wasn't fun, I would leave.
And now, in your time away, you did find your way back to the wrestling business. From what I read, you went to the USWA after that and became champion.
Yeah, that was, I was only there for a short time though. That's when they were starting out, and I was just in and out on the weekends. I actually never worked for them. I was just doing TV for them.
Okay. Which led then to coming back and being Kama, the Supreme Fighting Machine, a character that I enjoyed looking back in hindsight. That was actually the first time I had seen you because being younger, I only discovered the WWF a little bit later on, like around say 94 or so. So when I saw you as Kama, that was my first actual exposure. With that said, they say your character was modeled a bit after a UFC fighter, and you happen to be from the actual fight capital of the world, Las Vegas. Was that always the idea that it be modeled after a fighter in the UFC? Were you a fan?
They called me and said, there's a fighter named Chemo, and he's got tattoos, and Vince wants to do a kind of a thing off of what he's doing, and he thinks you'd be the perfect guy to do it. And I'm like, nah, I don't want to do that. And they said, well, we'll let you ride a Harley. And I'm like, I can ride a Harley? They said, yeah. I'm like, oh, I'm in then. Okay. And probably most people don't remember Kama on a Harley because back then Vince didn't own Harleys like he did when he bought into Titan and bought all those guys and everybody had their own motorcycles. They didn't. So we would show up to a building and they'd have a Sportster or a piece of crap looking Harley. So they just dropped the idea. As soon as they dropped the idea, I was ready to go again. I'm like, I ain't having fun no more.
Nope.
And then they said, well, okay, we'll put him with Taker. Maybe that'll keep him around a little longer. So they put me with Taker for a program. And then as soon as I was done with Taker, I'd be like, I want out of here now. I'm done with this now. That's not fun. But that's how it was with me.
Now, not a lot of people know that Kama was actually an acronym.
Kick any man's ass.
Exactly. Now, was that your idea or was that
Yes.
Jesus?
No, Vince came. I don't know how Kama came up. Well, however Kama came up, I said, "That's great. Kick any man's ass." That's me. Kick any man's ass. And
And
I don't
believable.
remember how at all, but I know I was saying kick any man's ass. I like that.
Yeah, no, that was great. And then you went and stole the Undertaker's urn and made a fucking gold chain out of it, which was
Yeah,
hilarious.
man. Jesus, only a black guy would do that. Huh? Take the urn and make it a chain. Damn.
It was like a precursor to the actual Godfather. You already had the chain going. So
I wish I still had that chain.
Now, I just wanted to know, I mean, being from Vegas and all, are you a fan at all of the UFC or?
From afar. I mean, I didn't watch last night. I used to really be into it, but as I get older and with the COVID and how there's no fans anymore, I've kind of stopped watching TV as much as I used to. Like, I'm not even watching the football games today. I don't know. As you get older, I'm into other things. I spend a lot of time on the internet. And, I just have fun. I love playing disc golf, go shooting. And I don't watch much TV. I don't watch much TV at all.
yeah, I saw on your Instagram, I think it was 3 days ago, you're at a shooting range. Are you
Yeah.
you're a big gun guy?
I know guns. I know Canada has a different outlook on guns than we do here in the States.
My dad's American, so don't worry about it.
I'm one of those guys. I'm one of those guys that has a lot of guns. I have a lot of ammo. And when I mean a lot of guns, I mean, I'd be embarrassed, but a lot of guns. But I don't hunt. I don't kill. I don't think the world's going to end. I don't think I'm going to have to go up against the government. I don't even think the zombies are going to take over. I love to shoot. And over the years, and people don't, I mean, I'm 59 years old. Over the years, I've bought a lot of guns, and I belong to a gun club, and I go once a week and I shoot guns, pistols, rifles, shotguns. So it's a big thing of mine. So you will see a lot of pictures of me at the range shooting, because I love to go out there and shoot.
Excellent. And speaking of shooting, this makes for such a great segue, because I wanted to ask you about your involvement in the Brawl for All, which a lot of people remember. And I have someone who's a bit of a mentor to me. I consider them like my wrestling father, a gentleman you know very well by the name of Too Cold Scorpio.
Yes, sir.
Who, he lived here in Montreal for about 2 years. He had, just gone back with COVID and everything, but he actually lived a few blocks down the road from me, mentored me, taught me a lot. Like I said, I consider him like a father. And he talks about the fight that you guys had in the Brawl for All and the circumstances surrounding that. Just want to get your thoughts on, what brought you into the Brawl for All and what your experience was like overall.
Bruce Pritchard called me and said, "Hey, they're going to do this Brawl for All thing. If you win, you get 5,000, and the next fight you get 10,000, and the next fight." And that's all I heard. I'm like, "All right, I'll do it." I mean, that was like that. There was no thoughts. I'm like, I get paid more to just put 3. Okay, I'll do it. My problem was, and when I fought, I think me and Too Cold were riding together that day, if I weren't mistaken. I think we were riding together when we found out we had to fight each other. And I think our conversation went like, "Hey, man, no matter what happens out there, we're going to still be cool after this." So, and we went out there and did our things. But believe me, we were probably smoking that day together.
Oh yeah. That's what he said.
I guarantee you we were blazing that day together. And I think that's more like, hey, what happens? Vince got on me about I could have got on him more, but it was a good fight. And I was so much bigger than him, it wasn't fair.
And then ultimately, I mean, you did pretty well in the tournament. You beat Scorpio, went on, I believe, to fight Bradshaw next. And
no, I don't. But Bart is the one that got me.
Oh, Bart, yeah, it was Bart. And
my problem was with that. I probably should have took it a little bit more serious. And if I had to do it over again, I would have trained a little bit. And I literally never trained at home. And we had time to train and get in shape for it. Never trained, never did nothing, just showed up, put the gloves on, said, "Let's go." If I had it, and I just never thought I'd get knocked. I just never thought nobody could knock me out, to be honest. And I think Billy Gunn told me before I fought Bart, he goes, "He's going to knock you out." I'm like, "Yeah, good luck with that." But I got caught, man. And just, if I had to do it over again, I would have took it a little bit more serious.
And a lot of people, like, I'm very good friends with Carl Willett, who had to face Dr. Death Steve Williams in the first round. Right. And a lot of the people I've spoken with about it, they say that there was kind of this overlying sentiment that this was designed as a vehicle to get Steve Williams over in the WWE. Did you feel that that was by design, or that was maybe just something that
That
everyone
is
thought?
such bullshit. Steve Williams was an old man then. There's nobody in that thought that Steve, most of us were like, why is Steve even in this? So that's bullshit. When they did the Dark Side of the Ring, and what's his name? Vince Russo. When he was talking, when we went off air, I'm like, is this a shoe? Is this a rib or something? You guys, I have no idea what you're talking about. Bradshaw being a bully, this, that. I'd never heard any of this stuff. I'm like, is this some type of scripted thing? I don't know, because I didn't know. No, not one of us in that fight thought that Steve Williams was going to win. And Jim Ross even said that in the thing. So I don't know who came up with that, but nobody. Steve was, he was old. He was 10, 15 years past his prime then. So we didn't think he was going to win that.
It falls
so,
under.
I mean, it doesn't make sense that people really thought that the Steve Williams at 25 years ago was out there.
It's something I like to say when I say, you know, sometimes why let the facts get in the way of a good story?
Yeah.
So it's good that you
we thought Shamrock was in it at first and he pulled out. We thought he had the best chance of winning it because he was actually a UFC fighter. And, I was with Butterbean the night, just before he fought BART, and you found out that Butterbean said, I was him and Gilbert were in a room like a week before they fought. And he basically said, I'll knock this kid out quick. He goes, no matter what you think of me, I am a professional boxer. I have had 100 professional boxing matches. You guys you're not a professional. You guys just out there throwing hands. He goes, I'm going to take this kid out quick. And he did, because we're just tough guys out there swinging.
Remember in the Rock's book, he was talking about at WrestleMania 15 watching that fight. I think they were doing the walk-ins, and Austin and The Rock were around the monitor watching it, talking about how quick Bart Gunn's going to get knocked out. So was that just like that was just backstage knowledge back then that he had no chance going against Butterbean?
No, I mean, he's a boxer.
Yeah.
Bart's not no professional boxer.
Yeah.
He's a professional boxer. He probably knew, I'm going to do this, he's going to do that, and I'm going to take him out.
You got to understand that Kyle here is a little bit biased towards Butterbean since he does look like his illegitimate son. So,
dude, I like Butterbean. Butterbean was cool.
He was actually one of our first guests we had on the show, so we actually got to get his side of the story too on the whole Bart Gunn incident.
Yeah. I talked to Bart about that, and I found out a lot of stuff that I didn't know when they started trying to fight in Japan. I didn't even know any of that. But thing about me, man, is I never got involved with other people's business. I was just doing my thing. It was never political with me. They left me alone. They let me be me. They let me do all type of stuff that they don't let nobody else do. And so it was all about having fun, making money, having fun, probably more than having fun than making money, and just being around cool people, man, and being around Taker and being around Ron Simmons and being around Bradshaw and just being around Teddy Long and all these guys and Owen Hart and, all these cool dudes that you got to meet, and Kurt Hennig and Scott Hall. I mean, I could keep going on, and YOKOZUNA, just meeting these cool dudes, man, that were just like you.
I read that the Kurt Hennig pulled a little rib on you during one of your casket matches with the Undertaker.
What? Is he the one that put the fish in the thing?
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, I believe it. Dude, they used to rib you all the time, but it was cool. People would put, it was called heat bomb, sticky bomb, whatever it was called back then, and it was I can say what I used to do. I gotta watch myself sometimes because most of the stuff I've done is R-rated.
Yeah, that's what we're here for. That's what the show's for. So.
Oh, I'm beyond R-rated.
And so moving on in your career, you were then part of the Nation of Domination. Now, I loved watching the Nation of Domination, yourself, Ron Simmons, Mark Henry, D'Lo Brown, and of course, The Rock. I thought it was great that we saw a strong group of African-American guys all working together. And I personally found that you guys were great role models out there. I've had the chance to meet Ron, and he's one of my favorite people in wrestling. Just a great dude, a good father figure all around. I mean, what was it like when they came to you with that idea, and what are some of your memories from working with the Nation?
I found out about the Nation the night I was coming back to TV as Papa Shango. And when I got the TV, they said, Vince wants to talk to you. I'm like, cool, let's go see what Vince wants. So I go and Vince goes, change the plans. I'm like, change the plans. He goes, we're going to put you in the Nation of Domination. You and Ron Simmons are going to wrestle Undertaker in a handicap match, and you're going to go over in the middle. And I'm like, what? And so that's when I met Ron Simmons for the first time. And I'm like, dude, you have any idea what's going on? He's like, man, I don't know what's going on, man. I got no idea what they're doing, man. And so I'm like, and I didn't believe him at the time, but I'm like, you know what's going on. So I'm like, well, as long as they're going to pay me what they say they're going to pay me, give me my tights. So they gave me an outfit and stuff. We did what we had to do. And then it was the next week that they called me and Ron into the office, and Vince kind of laid out what he was doing with Dwayne. And you know, and at first we had a problem with Dwayne because Dwayne didn't want to wear the hats. He didn't want to wear the little Muslim hats that we were wearing and stuff. And then he didn't want to wear the tights, and he didn't want to wear the colors. And so we finally settled on, he wore like 3 little stripes on his tights for the Nation. Because we like, if you don't wear that, we ain't doing it.
Was there any reason why he didn't want to wear it?
You'd have to ask him that. I don't know.
Oh, I mean,
and so, I mean, he didn't want to mess up his hair probably on the other one.
Yeah. Or what was left of it.
Yeah.
So
before he went my
after
route.
that little thing, man, it worked out. We all became good friends. Everybody in that group went on to do other things except that idiot Ahmed Johnson, besides that fool. But we all we helped Mark Henry, especially Ron. We try to help each other, man. We give each other advice. We try to put each other over. We try to help each other. And we all kind of developed different characters after that. So to this day, D'Lo lives in Las Vegas. D'Lo worked at a club out here called Cheetahs for a while, a topless club. D'Lo worked there for me for a while. I talk to Ron all the time. I talked to Mark Henry on Martin Luther King's birthday. So I don't talk to Rock too much, but when I see him, he's always cool. So, I mean, so good group of guys, man. And to this day, we're still friends.
Well, that's great to hear. And I mean, after The Rock, I would say you were probably the next biggest breakout star from that group to go on to have a successful singles run, win the Intercontinental Championship, Tag Team Championship as well, if I'm not mistaken. And one of the most memorable characters of all time with The Godfather. Definitely entertained everyone in this room and everyone watching at home on a weekly basis.
You actually got me a bunch of detentions too, because I've never heard the word hoe before you got on TV. And then I went to high school the next day and everybody was a hoe. So
did you even know what a hoe was?
Yeah, I had to Google it. Well, I had to ask somebody back then. That for all you kids out there, that's what Googling was. Actually, you've been a part of the studio since day one. We got your picture hanging up there on the cover of the WWF magazine.
I gotta send you a signed one.
Oh, that would be much appreciated.
Yeah. Definitely.
Thank you so much.
Definitely. Now, I wanted to ask you, you know, being that you guys were the Nation, and like I said, I loved it as a young African-American person myself. I loved seeing that group. Now, throughout your career, did you ever encounter any instances of racism at any point, anything along those lines?
No. None at all. Not beside, you know, not like, no. People hated us, but this is, no, man. People weren't out there calling us the N-word and all that type of stuff. People hated us. We had heat, but I don't remember anything like that. People were afraid of us. I mean, if there were some pictures where me, Ahmed, and Ron and Rocker walking down and D'Lo, we just look, dude, people were afraid of us. They, you know, no, I never faced any of it. You'd have to ask the other guys, but I didn't.
No.
Now, were people afraid when D'Lo was doing the head bobbing back then? Or I used to love that when he would come out and he just,
dude, that was over. That was over like Rover, man. People loved that. People loved that.
And he had that song there. You're looking at the real deal now.
Yeah.
It was great.
Hey, D'Lo was a hell of a. D'Lo could work.
He was a hell of an athlete.
He was a hell of a worker, man. I was a punch and kicker, man. D'Lo was a worker.
Yeah, and he had that chest protector after Dan Severn tore his pecs.
Rod Simmons called it the turtle shell, man. With that turtle shell, D'Lo gonna hit you with the turtle shell.
Yeah.
Another thing about Ron Simmons, you said you got to know him. Best dude in the world, best storyteller in the world, and about 80, I got people coming over. 80% of the things that rock from Know Your Role and those were Ron Simmons sayings. Yeah, I know if you don't know your role. Ron used to tell other wrestlers, "All right, boy, know your role. There can only be so many Stone Colds. There can only be so many Rocks. You got to know your role, boy. Then you do the best at your roles you can. So know your role." That was Ron Simmons saying. But a lot of those things were just what Ron would say. Damn, that was just stuff that he would say normally. Best dude. I can't talk about him without this. If I need somebody to talk to, I'll talk to Undertaker or Ron. And Taker, I'd rather talk to Ron because Taker will just agree with me and stuff. Then Ron will be like, "Man, now listen, man, you doing it wrong." Ron will get on me. Taker will agree with me.
I actually got to meet Ron Simmons a couple years ago at a Comic-Con here. Such a nice guy. Actually, I walked over to him, took the time to talk to me. He looked me in the eyes. He shook my hand. Great guy.
Yeah. I mean,
let me hold the WCW title, the one before the big gold one, the Vader one.
Dude in the world.
Yeah, awesome guy. Well, a lot of people still don't know what BSK stands for. I mean,
it stands for Bone Street Crew, and it was a non-political group, unlike the Clique, of friends, all adversities, man, all ethnicities. We were Samoan, Black, Puerto Rican, white, just good friends that every day at TV, and we played dominoes. Played dominoes a lot at night too, but it was Yoko who would say, "BSK, Bone Street Crew, let's go." And it was time to play. At nighttime, Savio and Rikishi would go with us sometimes, but it was usually me, Undertaker, and Yoko at nighttime hitting the strip clubs. But it was just a bunch of good dudes. We hung out together. We went out at night together. We got in a lot of fights together, and we have a lot of love for each other. And on Facebook now we have a BSK chat group that we're all in, and it's awesome. Cool. Taker he's not on there too much, but the rest of us are.
If I could throw just one last question out there for my part is it sounds to me like your biggest takeaway from wrestling has been the friendships that you've made, guys like the BSK. I think it was cool. We got to see that reunion not too long ago for yes. Taker's retirement. That was
I'm still drunk from that.
all that to say, to a young aspiring wrestler like myself that maybe listen to the show, what advice would you have for them? Let's say.
For what? To what? As to become a wrestler, or in your case?
No, just to a young aspiring wrestler, someone like me who's looking to.
You know what, bro? Here's the deal. Wrestling is so much different than it was when I came up. The way to get in is different. They don't have the territories. You don't pay your dues. You don't do a lot of stuff that we used to do. My best advice would be life advice. Go in there, learn as much as you can, listen to everybody. Take what you want from everybody. Don't mean everybody's right, but listen to what everybody says. Take criticism and just listen to the people and do you. And I know Papa Shango is a historical character, memorable character that'll last for a while, but Godfather was over like Rover. I mean, he was over so big, and it was so fun to just be yourself. And to get paid to be yourself and to have people really enjoy that, man, that meant the world to me. So, I mean, you got to put yourself in there somewhere, learn as much as you can, listen to people, and, keep going, man, keep pushing.
Well, I thank you for that. I think that is excellent advice to myself or any other wrestlers or aspiring wrestlers out there. I think that is as good as gold.
Well, cool. So, Jofo, I'm going to gargle a shot for Kurt Hennig and everybody before we go.
Oh, no.
Jofo, thank you guys.
Hey, man, it's been an honor talking to you. Dream come true. I remember I grew up watching you, and this has just been surreal for me. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'll send you guys that P.O. box. I'll make sure I wear your stuff.
I appreciate you, man. Stay safe, eh?
You guys be safe. Cool. Peace.
Take care, brother. Wow. Hell of an interview.
Oh, yeah.
Jesus. Great guy, too.
Absolutely. And I think he imparted a lot of knowledge on a lot of people. But more importantly than that, what a great time that was.
That was awesome.
That was amazing. And it's great to see someone like that in the wrestling business who was able to spend that much time and have a good time. That was a good time and a long time.
Very welcoming, very laid back. I had a great time. I'm sure you had a great time. Absolutely. And I know you guys had a great time. And with that, wrestling is life.
Here we go. Go, come on, chop, chop.
Oh, I thought he was just recording it.
Wait,
on
you're
his phone.
just mesmerized, but no.
Okay, whatever.
Today, Junior.
All right, Jeremy, where can we find you?
There
on
we
the
go. Here,
socials?
say it with a man voice. You can find me on Twitter at Jeremy Prophet, JEREMYPROPHET, the only way to spell it. You can find me on Instagram at the real Jeremy Prophet. And as always, you can find me right here on Jofo in the Ring, week after week, looking like $1 million, not looking like this guy who's been indebted for the last 10 years.
5, but close.
Moving
We're
on.
gonna end. We're doing the outro.
Oh, okay, my bad. I thought you were dropping the ball.
Oh, nope.
Let's.
All right, everyone. So if you like that episode, check us out on Twitter. You can check us out on Facebook, Instagram, fucking TikTok now at Jofo in the Ring. Jeremy, where can we find you?
As always, you can find me on Twitter at Jeremy Prophet, JEREMYPROPHET, the only way to spell it. And you can find me on Instagram at The Real Jeremy Prophet, looking like $1 billion, unlike this guy who looks like he pretty much owes just about everybody in the world a receipt. So,
More.
yeah, well, you know, things are moving up, I guess, but they can only go so far. With that
I
said,
don't think moving up is my cholesterol.
we got to give a special shout out.
Who's shouting out?